Imagine this 30 days a finite stretch of time. It's not a year, it's not a decade, it's just 1 month. And yet, in this small window of days, there lies an opportunity so profound that it can shift the entire trajectory of your life. 30 days might seem insignificant at first glance. After all, what can you truly achieve in just 1 month? But let me ask you, have you ever truly devoted yourself heart, mind, and soul to anything for 30 days straight? Most people haven't, and that's where the magic lies. You see, time is one of life's greatest gifts. It's a resource that renews itself every morning, yet it's also one of the most misused assets we possess. Most people drift through their days as if they have an infinite supply. They waste their hours scrolling, complaining, procrastinating. They treat time as if it's endless, never realizing that every day wasted is an opportunity lost forever. But what if, for the next 30 days, you treated time as sacred? What if you approached each day with the intention to make it count? The results would shock you not because the idea is revolutionary, but because of how few people actually do it. When I started my own 30-day experiment, I decided to make every hour matter. It wasn't about perfection, it was about purpose. I woke up each morning with a plan. No more aimless wandering through my day. I had clarity, and that clarity became my fuel. I didn't try to tackle everything at once. That's a mistake many people make. Instead, I chose one focus, one goal that mattered deeply to me, and I committed myself fully to it for 30 days. What happened next was nothing short of transformative. In the beginning, it was challenging. The habits of distraction, laziness, and doubt tried to creep in. My mind told me it's just one day. Missing this won't matter. But here's the truth. Every single day matters when you're building momentum. You wouldn't build a house and then decide to skip laying a brick here and there, would you? Of course not. Every brick is essential to the foundation. And so I treated each day as if it were a brick in the foundation of my new future. What shocked me was how quickly the results started to appear. At first they were subtle, a sense of pride for simply showing up, a growing belief in myself for sticking to my commitment. But then the momentum began to compound. A single focused day turned into a week of discipline. A week of discipline turned into clarity, energy, and progress I hadn't experienced in years. Here's the secret: when you dedicate yourself to a singular focus for 30 days, you discover the power of consistency. Most people underestimate how much they can accomplish because they spread their energy too thin. They try to do everything at once, and as a result, they achieve very little. But when you focus all your energy on one area, whether it's your health, your finances, your personal growth, you unlock a level of progress that feels almost magical. I'll give you an example. During my experiment, I decided to focus on reading and learning. For years, I told myself I wanted to read more books, gain more knowledge, and expand my perspective. But like most people, I'd let life get in the way. I was too busy, or so I thought. For this 30-day experiment, I committed to reading 10 pages a day. Just 10 pages. It didn't seem like much at first, but 10 pages a day adds up to 300 pages in a month, a full book. And the act of reading every day didn't just fill my mind with ideas, it reignited my curiosity. It gave me new insights to apply to my life and work. By the end of the month, I'd not only finished a book, but I'd also developed a habit that I knew could transform my mind for years to come. This principle applies to anything you choose to focus on. Let's say you want to improve your health. Imagine committing to 30 minutes of exercise every day for 30 days. At first, it might feel like a chore. Your body might resist the change. But as the days pass, you'll notice something extraordinary. Your energy will increase. Your confidence will grow. And by the end of the month, you'll look back and wonder why you ever hesitated to begin. The beauty of a 30-day experiment is that it's both short enough to feel achievable and long enough to create lasting change. It's not forever, it's just 30 days. But those 30 days can be the catalyst for a lifetime of transformation. The key is to approach them with intention and focus. You might be thinking, but what if I fail? What if I miss a day or lose momentum? Let me tell you something, failure is part of the process. It's not about being perfect, it's about being persistent. If you stumble, get back up. If you miss a day, start again the next. What matters is that you don't quit. Remember, the clock is ticking, and time will pass whether you use it wisely or not. So why not use it to create something extraordinary? By the end of my 30-day experiment, I was a different person, not because I'd achieved some monumental goal, but because I'd proven to myself what was possible when I truly committed. I realized that the limits I'd placed on my potential were self-imposed. And if I could accomplish so much in just 30 days, what could I achieve in a year or a decade? The truth is, you are capable of far more than you believe, but you'll never discover your true potential unless you're willing to challenge yourself. And there's no better way to start than with a 30-day experiment. Treat it as an adventure, a test of your character and determination. Because at the end of those 30 days, you won't just have results, you'll have a new mindset, a new level of confidence, and a renewed sense of what's possible. My challenge to you is simple: take the leap. Commit to 30 days of focused effort in one area of your life. Treat time as the precious gift it is. Show up every day with purpose and intention. And when you look back at the end of the month, I promise you this: you'll be shocked by what you've accomplished, and even more so by the person you've become. Time is waiting. Are you ready to take control of it? The choice is yours. There's a principle in life that is as reliable as gravity: small actions, done consistently, create massive change over time. Yet most people never fully understand or embrace this truth. They're trapped in the mindset that big results require big actions. They think if they can't overhaul their life in one grand gesture, then it's not worth starting at all. But the reality is far simpler and far more powerful. Every little choice you make compounds over time, like drops of water carving a canyon. It's not about doing extraordinary things every day. It's about doing ordinary things extraordinarily well, day in and day out. I discovered the power of this principle during my 30-day experiment. At the beginning, I set out with one goal: to prove to myself what was possible with consistent, focused effort. I didn't aim for monumental changes overnight. Instead, I started with small, manageable actions, things that seemed almost insignificant on their own. For instance, I committed to waking up 30 minutes earlier each day. At first, it felt like nothing special. 30 minutes is such a small slice of the day, after all. But by the end of the first week, I began to see the ripple effects. Those 30 extra minutes gave me time to read, reflect, and plan my day with clarity. Over a month, those minutes added up to 15 extra hours of intentional living. And here's the thing: it wasn't just the time itself that made a difference, it was the discipline. When you do something consistently, no matter how small, you're training yourself in a way that goes far beyond the action itself. You're building a new identity. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who takes control of their life. And that identity shift is where the magic happens. Suddenly, the things that once seemed impossible start to feel inevitable. I'll give you an example. During my experiment, I committed to improving my health by walking 10,000 steps a day. It wasn't some grueling fitness regime, it was just walking. On the first few days, I had to remind myself to get up and move, to carve out time for this simple activity. But as the days went on, it became a habit. And as it became a habit, it started to transform me, not just physically, but mentally. There's something about consistent movement that clears your mind, that gives you a sense of accomplishment and momentum. By the end of the month, I wasn't just walking 10,000 steps, I was jogging, stretching, and exploring new ways to push my limits. That's the compound effect in action. Here's what's shocking: most people never experience this kind of transformation because they give up before the momentum kicks in. They try something for a few days, don't see immediate results, and decide it's not worth it. But what they don't realize is that the biggest changes are always invisible at first. When you plant a seed, you don't see anything for days, even weeks. But beneath the surface, roots are growing, the foundation is being laid. And if you're patient, if you keep watering that seed, one day it will break through the soil and grow into something extraordinary. This leads me to another profound realization from my 30-day experiment. Most of us are operating at a fraction of our true potential. We've been conditioned to accept mediocrity, to settle for good enough. But when you challenge yourself, when you push beyond your comfort zone, you discover a reservoir of strength and capability that you didn't even know you had. Let me tell you about the moment I first realized this. It was about halfway through the experiment. Up until that point, I'd been following my plan, sticking to my commitments, but I still had doubts. I wondered if it was all worth it, if these small actions were really going to add up to anything meaningful. Then, one day I found myself facing a challenge, a moment where I had to choose between sticking to my plan or taking the easy way out. I was tired, busy, and every part of me wanted to quit. But something inside me said, "You've come this far. Don't stop now." So I pushed through. And in that moment, something shifted. I realized that the limits I'd been feeling weren't real, they were self-imposed. They were the product of years of playing it safe, of listening to the voice in my head that said, "You're not good enough. You can't do this." But when I ignored that voice, when I proved to myself that I could keep going even when it was hard, I felt an incredible surge of power. It was like I'd tapped into a new level of myself, one that had been lying dormant all along. This is what I mean when I say most people are operating at only 40% of their potential. We think we're giving it our all, but the truth is we're holding back. We're playing small because we're afraid of failure, of discomfort, of the unknown. But here's the shocking truth. The moment you push past that fear, the moment you go beyond what you thought was possible, You unlock a version of yourself that is stronger, smarter, and more capable than you ever imagined. During those 30 days, I started to see this version of myself emerge. It wasn't just about the results I was achieving, it was about the person I was becoming. I was more disciplined, more focused, more confident. I began to approach challenges with a new mindset. Instead of asking, can I do this? I started asking, how far can I go? And that shift in perspective changed everything. The beauty of this transformation is that it doesn't end when the 30 days are over. Once you've experienced what you're truly capable of, there's no going back. You start to see opportunities everywhere. You realize that the limits you once believed in were just illusions, and you begin to dream bigger, work harder, and live more fully. What's the takeaway? It's simple. Don't underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. Don't settle for the version of yourself that plays it safe. Take on the challenge, commit to the process, and watch as the compound effect works. It's magic. And most importantly, believe in your ability to shock yourself, because you are capable of far more than you think. The clock is ticking. The question isn't whether you have the potential, it's whether you have the courage to unleash it. Time is the great equalizer. No matter who you are, where you come from, or what resources you have, we all start each day with the same 24 hours. Yet why is it that some people accomplish extraordinary things while others feel stuck in mediocrity? The difference lies in how they use their time. Most people treat time as if it's endless, wasting hours on distractions, procrastination, and excuses. But here's the truth: time is finite. Every moment you spend aimlessly is a moment you'll never get back. That realization can either terrify you or inspire you. For me, it was a wake-up call, a call to approach the next 30 days with intention, focus, and purpose. When I started my 30-day experiment, I wasn't trying to change everything about my life. I wasn't looking for instant, overnight results. I simply wanted to see what would happen if I got serious about how I spent my time. For years, I had been telling myself I didn't have enough time to achieve my goals, to learn new skills, or to focus on my health, but deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The problem wasn't the lack of time, it was the lack of focus. So I decided to take control. I mapped out my days, prioritized my goals, and eliminated distractions. Every hour had a purpose, and every action was aligned with my vision for the future. At first, it felt challenging. Old habits are hard to break. My mind resisted the structure, tempting me to scroll through my phone or put things off until later, but I reminded myself of the stakes. If I couldn't commit to 30 days of focused effort, how could I expect to achieve anything meaningful in my life? That thought kept me disciplined. And as the days turned into weeks, something remarkable began to happen. I found myself accomplishing more in a single day than I used to achieve in an entire week. The clarity that came from having a plan and sticking to it was exhilarating. This brings me to a crucial insight: the small, consistent actions you take each day are far more powerful than any grand, sporadic effort. Most people believe that success comes from one monumental breakthrough, but the truth is that it's the result of simple disciplines, practiced daily. This is the compound effect in action. Think of it like planting a garden. You don't see results the day you plant the seeds, but if you water them every day, if you tend to the soil and remove the weeds, those seeds will eventually grow into something beautiful. During my 30-day experiment, I committed to small, manageable actions. One of these was reading 10 pages of a book each day. It seemed like such a small commitment, barely 15 minutes of my time. But by the end of the month, I had finished an entire book. What's more, the act of reading every day sharpened my mind and filled me with new ideas. It wasn't just about the knowledge I gained, it was about the habit I built. Each day of reading reinforced my commitment to growth, and that commitment started to spill over into other areas of my life. Another small action I focused on was walking 10,000 steps a day. It wasn't about losing weight or training for a marathon, it was about creating a habit of movement. At first, it felt tedious. There were days when I didn't want to get up and move, when the excuses piled up in my mind. But I reminded myself of the compound effect. Missing one day might not seem like a big deal, but it breaks the chain of momentum. And momentum, once lost, is hard to regain. So I pushed through, and by the end of the month, walking wasn't just a goal, it was a natural part of my day. What shocked me most during this process was how quickly the results began to add up. By the second week, I started to feel a shift. I had more energy, more clarity, and a growing sense of confidence. The small wins from each day began to compound into something greater. That's the beauty of consistent effort. It doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. This leads me to the most profound lesson of all: you are capable of far more than you realize. Most of us live our lives at a fraction of our potential. We tell ourselves stories about what we can and can't do, and we believe them without question. We say, I'm not disciplined, or I don't have enough time, or I'll never be good at this. These stories become our reality, not because they're true, but because we've accepted them as truth. During my 30-day experiment, I confronted these limiting beliefs head on. There were moments when I wanted to quit, when the voice in my head told me it wasn't worth it. But each time I reminded myself of why I started. I reminded myself that the discomfort I was feeling was temporary, but the growth I was experiencing was permanent. And with each day that I pushed through, I discovered a new layer of strength and resilience within myself. The turning point came about halfway through the experiment. I was faced with a particularly busy day, filled with unexpected challenges and setbacks. My old self would have used those obstacles as an excuse to abandon my commitments. But this time was different. I had built a foundation of discipline and momentum, and I wasn't about to let it crumble. So I found a way to make it work. I adjusted my schedule, prioritized what mattered most, and refused to let excuses dictate my actions. That day was a breakthrough for me. It wasn't just about sticking to my commitments, it was about proving to myself that I could rise above my circumstances. It was a reminder that the limits we feel are often self-imposed, and that true growth comes from pushing beyond them. By the end of the 30 days, I looked back and realized just how much I had accomplished. But more importantly, I saw how much I had changed. I was no longer the person who made excuses, who let distractions control my time, or who doubted my ability to follow through. I had become someone who believed in my own potential, someone who understood the power of consistency and focus. This transformation wasn't just about the results I achieved, it was about the mindset I developed. I began to see challenges as opportunities, setbacks as lessons, and each day as a chance to become better. I started asking myself, if I can accomplish this in just 30 days, what else am I capable of? The answer was clear. I was capable of far more than I had ever imagined. And so are you. The question isn't whether you have the potential to change your life, it's whether you have the courage to start. The next 30 days will pass whether you take action or not. The difference is, if you commit to focusing your time, embracing small, consistent actions, and pushing beyond your limits, you'll look back and be amazed at what you've accomplished. Don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Don't wait for the perfect moment to begin. Start now with whatever you have and trust that the journey will unfold in ways you can't yet imagine. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about showing up. Each day, each small step brings you closer to the person you were meant to be. The clock is ticking and time waits for no one. Will you rise to the challenge and take control of your life? The choice is yours. Time is the currency of life. Every day we are gifted 24 hours to spend however we choose. Yet most people squander this precious resource without a second thought. They drift through their days, distracted and reactive, failing to realize the immense potential hidden in each moment. Time isn't just passing, it's shaping us. Every second we let slip away shapes a life of mediocrity, and every second we invest with intention shapes a life of meaning. When I began my 30-day experiment, I wasn't trying to prove anything to the world. I wasn't looking for applause or recognition. I wanted to see what would happen if I got serious about how I spent my time. I had spent years telling myself the same excuses we all use: I don't have enough time, or I'll start when things slow down, but deep down I knew the truth. It wasn't a lack of time holding me back, it was a lack of focus. So I decided to do something radical. For 30 days I planned every hour of my day with purpose. No more endless scrolling through social media. No more procrastinating or waiting for motivation to strike. Each moment had a job to do, whether it was working toward a goal, improving myself, or simply resting intentionally. At first, it was uncomfortable. My mind rebelled against the structure. It craved the familiar chaos of distraction. But as the days turned into weeks, something began to shift. I started accomplishing more in a single day than I used to manage in a week. The clarity of knowing exactly where my time was going brought a sense of control and empowerment that I had never felt before. This leads me to the first great lesson of my experiment, the power of focused time. It's not enough to simply have time, you must use it wisely. Most people spend their lives reacting to the demands of others, letting the world dictate their schedule. But when you take control of your time, you take control of your life. You stop being a passive observer and start being an active participant in your own story. The beauty of focused time is that it allows you to align your actions with your values. It forces you to confront what truly matters and let go of the distractions that don't. During those 30 days, I learned to say no to the things that didn't serve my goals. I learned to prioritize my energy and focus on what would bring the most growth and fulfillment. This brings me to the second great truth, the compound effect in action. We live in a world that glorifies instant gratification, where people expect success to come in a flash. But the truth is, meaningful change is a slow, steady process. It's not about making massive leaps. It's about taking small, consistent steps every day. During my experiment, I committed to simple habits, reading 10 pages of a book each day, walking 10,000 steps, and journaling my thoughts before bed. At first, these actions felt insignificant. 10 pages didn't seem like much, and 10,000 steps were hardly a workout. But I stuck with them day after day. And as the days turned into weeks, the results began to add up. By the end of the month, I had finished an entire book, something I hadn't done in years. I felt more energized and clear-headed from the daily movement. And the act of journaling helped me process my thoughts and set clear intentions for the days ahead. These weren't earth-shattering changes, but they were transformative. Because each small win built on the one before it, creating a sense of momentum and progress that was impossible to ignore. The compound effect is like planting a garden. You don't see results immediately, but with consistent effort, the seeds you plant will grow into something extraordinary. Most people never experience this because they give up too soon. They try something for a few days, don't see immediate results, and decide it's not worth it. But the truth is, the biggest changes happen below the surface, where you can't see them yet. This leads me to the third great realization: you are capable of far more than you think. Most of us are living at a fraction of our true potential, held back by fear, doubt, and limiting beliefs. We tell ourselves stories about what we can and can't do, and we believe them without question. During my 30-day experiment, I came face to face with my own limitations. There were moments when I wanted to quit, when the voice in my head told me it wasn't worth it. But each time, I pushed through. I reminded myself why I had started and what was at stake. And with each day that I stayed consistent, I proved to myself that those limits were an illusion. The moment you realize your true potential is one of the most liberating experiences you can have. It's like discovering a hidden reservoir of strength and capability that you didn't know existed. Suddenly, the things that once seemed impossible start to feel achievable. For me, this realization came about halfway through the experiment. I had a day where everything seemed to go wrong. My schedule was thrown off, my energy was low, and every part of me wanted to give up. But instead of giving in to the excuses, I pushed through. I adjusted my plans, focused on what I could control, and found a way to keep moving forward. That day was a turning point. It showed me that I was stronger than I thought, that I could rise above my circumstances and take control of my actions no matter what. And once I proved that to myself, there was no going back. The final lesson of my experiment is perhaps the most profound: the ripple effect of discipline. When you commit to a goal and follow through, it doesn't just change that one area of your life, it creates a ripple effect that touches everything. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And as it grows, it starts to influence other areas of your life in ways you never expected. During my experiment, the discipline I built in one area began to spill over into others. For example, my commitment to waking up early gave me more time to focus on my health and personal growth. That extra time and energy improved my mood and productivity throughout the day. And as I became more productive, I felt more confident and motivated to tackle new challenges. This ripple effect isn't just about personal growth, it's about how your actions impact those around you. When you commit to living with purpose and discipline, you inspire others to do the same. People notice the changes in your attitude and energy, and they start to wonder what's possible for them.